Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is Steve Carroll. Steve is a strategic relationship manager at LinkedIn who works with clients around the world who are looking to find, develop, and retain top talent. Steve specializes in growing talent networks and brand presence for growing companies and their employees. He has some incredible advice to share with you on how to deliver value and take intelligent risks. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kayla. Over to you, Sunny.
Stephen, thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate your partnership, and you're such a wonderful human being, man. And I'm so excited about having a conversation with you today.
So it's a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and to your audience. I know that there's a lot that we have to cover today, but this connections like this and this type of experience is how we leverage and build our networks and share this knowledge that we all get. You know, I think we learn from connecting with one another, and now we get to do that as opposed to in office over coffee. We can do that virtually and expand the amount of knowledge we have. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you know, I just to share with our viewers how we got connected, that LinkedIn engagement and the journey that we traveled together, and the value that LinkedIn is adding to IT by Design. That partnership is so valuable to us, and so thank you for being a really great partner for us. And from the last 2 to 3 years that we are working together, and the relationship and the way you serve your customers is beautiful. And thank you so much.
Of course. I think that's something that must be a part of the way that we do business. The trend in business of just trying to get things done and moving on. I think that's long gone. Right now, business is changing to actually taking care of and serving the people you work with, and these type of relationships, understanding the people that you're working with and understanding the companies and how to move them forward. That's the way that real relationships are formed and where the real magic lies in business. So I appreciate your partnership as well.
Yeah, and this special episode that we do, Stephen, this is more to help professionals and leaders. And we have a career conversation once a week. And with you being at the center of people's career journey, and you kind of talk to employers, you talk to a lot of people that are using LinkedIn. So you are at the center, and you have so much wisdom and so much like in terms of what is trending and where professionals should focus. And that's very exciting for me today, especially with you being here because you have so much knowledge on this topic. And I'm going to start with my first question, that is, you know, what have you done in your career that you recommend other professionals should do?
This is a really good question because it's that answer is ubiquitous between the different careers that I've actually pursued over my professional career itself, which wasn't always in tech. Now working for LinkedIn, I had actually previously had a background in financial services and worked hard in that industry. But what I had always done in my professional career, just knowing that I'm an individual contributor, is looking for ways to help the business, working very hard, and then listening, observing, and finding ways where I can grow myself. I didn't always wait for an organization to help me grow. I found what the business and organization needed and found ways to develop myself. So taking initiative, just listening and learning as much as I possibly can, and then always working hard. Yeah. I've always done whatever I could to try to not necessarily try to be the absolute best on like a team, but try to figure out how to be the best version of myself in that role, whatever that looks like, and aspire to greatness, and then push that envelope just a little bit farther. And that's what ends up getting you noticed throughout your career. So as an individual contributor, I always make sure to take it upon myself to learn and grow and develop the skills before it's asked of me.
Yeah, I know, that's beautiful. So you mentioned hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. You mentioned lifelong learning. You mentioned listening. I mean, those are keys to really understand understand the business, understand the role that you're playing, having that courage and confidence, and at the same time, having that humility and all those attributes that you mentioned. I mean, that's what makes a professional a successful professional. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. Now, so you being at LinkedIn, you are leading. You're in a leadership role at LinkedIn, talking to a lot of your partners. So my next question is, what are the hiring trends that you see? So what professionals need to know in terms of the job market today?
So there's been a huge shift in the way that we look for talent. And that starts at the organizational level, where think about the way that a member, an individual, someone who's going to come work for a company. There's a shift in the way that those individuals engage with opportunity. And it went from a company just trying to post a job and having plenty of applicants to a proactive approach of we need to get in front of applicants early and often, thinking that a person's journey, when they take a job, this is one of the 4 hardest decisions they're going to have to make. Where they live, if they're going to buy a home or rent, relationships, so marriage, all family, all that stuff. And then number 4 is how to finance it all, which is your job. And so that's one of the 4 hardest decisions that you're going to make. So that when a person makes a decision to take on new employment with a new employer, it's not always done very quickly. It can take time, and there's a lot of considerations that happen. Especially now, there's more people that have the ability to work remote. And as that happens, the talent landscape is now expanding and growing even more. So the name of the game went from a reactive hiring strategy to more of a proactive, very engaging type of sourcing strategy. And so for any professional, as you're thinking about developing your career, I would make sure you're thinking about, where do I want to be in terms of what kind of organization? Do I want to be in the office or remote in the future post-COVID? And then as that professional, think about, where does this new landscape open me up to? And what companies should I be engaging with way before I even start the thinking about, hey, it's time for me to look for that next role where I can level up my career. Perhaps there's an option right next door that lets you level up your skills and pushes you in a direction you haven't gone before. The second piece of that is that another hiring trend that's very important is remembering skills over some of the broader, softer attributes of a candidate. Where there's a lot of technical roles where we're looking for certain qualifications, whether that's a license of some sort, whether that's a certain programming language for IT professionals, or a certain type of CRM system knowledge. Employers are valuing skills over just the general education. They want to see you actually can walk the walk and not just, hey, I conceptually fit the role. So remember to focus on skills on top of just the softer parts of a candidate.
Yeah, so two really, two things that I heard, Stephen, you saying. One is the landscape is changing. So in the new world, employers are more open to hire from anywhere. So I was actually just talking to one of our MSP partner this morning, and he said this is the first time he hired his chief technology architect in Midwest. And he's like, I have never done this before, but now he's like the person that I hired, and he's from I think he's from North Carolina. That's what he mentioned, or somewhere there. So the partner is from New Jersey, and he's like, the same person that if I had to hire here, I will at least pay like 25 to 30% more. And now that a lot of my people are working remotely anyways. And we have a backlog of projects coming from our customers, and we don't have a solutions architect. And we hired this person, with the 25 to 30% lower than the New Jersey market. But I'm trying this because things are working with people working from home, and that person can log in from New Jersey or log in from North Carolina. It doesn't matter to me. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that your overall opportunities, you have a lot more opportunities or access to more opportunities because companies are hiring from everywhere, and they are not limited to like their own city or state, and what we used to see. And the other piece that you mentioned is skills. So I was talking to another person in terms of okay, what are the skills that you're looking for? And person is like problem solving, and it's not general skills anymore. It's like, okay, can you solve problems, and can you come to me with some proposed solutions, and then also let me know what do you think is the right solution. So people are looking for more thinkers, and people are looking for a little bit more where their team members can help them drive things to completion. And now so we're going to move into now in terms of attributes of a successful professional. From your perspective, what do you think are the most important attributes?
Yeah, as a professional, I think being really deliberate about what you do within an organization to not only help that company and understand like your role in it,
Mm-hmm.
but then help the company think differently. I think we all have a responsibility within an organization to not just think about work as work, but the people that are very professional, and I should say the ones that are going to excel are the ones that look at a role and they zoom out to understand what piece am I playing in the broader picture, and what 1% to 2% change can I help make that's going to have a real impact. And I say this because there's a trend on work isn't just work anymore. I think especially now where people tend to be working longer if those people have remote capability and don't have to commute. You know, we're turning on our laptops earlier, we're logging on a little bit later and answering those emails. So as we think about becoming part of an organization and driving value, it comes back to purpose. And those who are more engaged with their work are the ones that are looking at, hey, maybe I can make this change that's going to affect the bottom line of this company, which is going to help other people's lives. It's going to help my superiors, and it's going to help the company overall to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And progress is what we find is that what equals happiness. And I've done a lot of research into what makes people engaged at the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really finding out a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
People without purpose tend to become less engaged. But when they feel like they're actually contributing to driving change and adding value, that's when they're going to be happier and they're going to be more productive. So with that, I always make sure to zoom out from where I am and understand as a professional, like what are you as part of the company, and how do you help drive it forward?
Yeah.
The second piece to that is, as you think about what kind of professional you want to be, there was a quote from Matthew McConaughey, which I really love. And someone asked him who his hero was.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, my hero is my person. It's me, but it's just the 5 to 10 year from now version of me.
Mm-hmm.
So as a professional, think about yourself and where you want to be. Don't necessarily look at someone who's in that leadership, director, manager role you want to be in. Find the attributes of people that you value, and then try to figure out, what do I need to do now so that I'm that person then?
Mm-hmm.
And create something called your own personal board of directors. I've done this for myself. Find a group of people, just like a company does. Find a group of people that you trust and whose values that represent you, and then surround yourself with those people. So as you're making the decisions, you have some guidance along the way to help you get there.
Yeah, that's so unique and very powerful when you say, okay, build that advisory board for yourself the way companies do. And what I have done from the beginning at IT by Design is that when I have a leader, because in a high growth mode company, sometimes, companies outgrow roles. And one solution that I found to that problem is if I have the right person on that seat, they're committed, they're driven, they have that grit, they want to do more, but they don't have enough experience to take the next level role. If you complete them by bringing in an advisory board from that field, from that domain, we give them access to those experts, those mentors, then they are more successful, more committed, more loyal, because they know how hard you're trying and how you are giving them those opportunities to learn from other mentors. And when you said that, for what you just said is so powerful. I mean, I have used it in a different setup, but when you as a professional you surround yourself with those advisory boards and those mentors, right? That is so powerful. And thank you for sharing that. And John C. Maxwell, he's my personal coach. And one thing that he mentioned is, Sunny, every single month, at least have two dinners. It's like must to have. One with a mentor who can teach you, and one with a mentee that pick someone that you can teach, and at least be intentional about two dinners, at least two, minimum two dinners where you are learning from a mentor and teaching someone. And the power of having that mentor in life is it's just so powerful. It can optimize your journey, your career journey, and you will be a lot more successful, impactful, and learn from those mentors' failures rather than you making that mistake and learning the hard way.
I love that. On that exact topic, and yes, of course, being that I work for LinkedIn currently, but I've used the platform for doing very similar things. And I would challenge those that are listening to surround yourself with the people that you think whose values you resonate with, and that are maybe in the positions where you'd like to be. But don't be hesitant about reaching out, because I've heard people say that, oh, that person I'd love to connect with a platform like LinkedIn, they would spend time with me. And you don't have to necessarily ask them for a half hour of their time, but look at what those individuals are doing on LinkedIn and other platforms. Create engaging conversations and comment on the stuff that they're sharing and create those connections. Just last week, I had a conversation with someone at a C-level at an organization I thought I would never be able to have access to. And he responded and he said, I enjoy giving back. And I think people do love to, once they get to a certain place, right? They like to, there's a quote by Denzel Washington. He says, each one, teach one. Whenever you get one step above where you are, reach back down and bring someone back up with you. And that's the way we collectively bring up as a society that our skills and our connections. So I encourage you, try just one or two people that you think would be interesting to connect with, and maybe see if that person's open to a conversation. I think you'll be surprised at what they say.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more there, because that's a common thing that I hear as well when I will share with someone how mentors in my life helped me and how I kind of became a better version of myself as a result of surrounding myself with great people. And I got lucky in some situations where I just happened to meet that person, right? And early on, there was no LinkedIn, and I just got lucky. So nowadays, there are a lot more resources, access to information. But can you share some strategies that work for you to find right people? Because that seems to be one of the obstacles that I hear to find mentors.
Yeah. One thing that is really important to do is, we mentioned before, is finding people that resonate with you. Before finding those mentors and selecting those people, kind of bringing them into your inner circle, it's important to even almost interview them. Because I've had people that I thought I looked up to, but once we had a conversation, I realized it wasn't necessarily someone that I potentially agreed with or completely identified with. And it was totally okay to say, thank you for your time. This was great. I appreciate the time we spend together. So I would start by saying, try to identify a few, but don't be afraid to narrow down and make sure that the people that you consider as your mentors, they resonate on a lot of different ways, whether that's you personally, your values, what you believe is appropriate. Make sure it's someone that you feel is a good fit. Don't just follow someone because they have, whether it's the fame or the status or the prowess. Find someone that you respect and that resonates with you. And also feel free to use the LinkedIn platform to do it. If there wasn't this platform before, now that we've leveled the playing field on being able to engage with people from all over, and not just in this country. So don't limit yourself to a certain country, state, organization. Go broad, go big, and pay attention. A lot of people are using media now, including LinkedIn and other sources, to post content and make personal posts, share their own information, even about their families, and find the people that are sharing information that you find to be relevant and accurate. Don't just because someone connects with you doesn't mean that you have to engage with that person as a mentor. But I will say that mentors come in all shapes and sizes. Before I joined LinkedIn, in fact, I was very excited about the company. And one thing I may not have shared with you before, Sunny, is I actually used the platform to message as many people as I could from the company. And some were higher up, some were in the same role that I was really hoping to get. And I messaged hundreds of people, not asking anything more than, hey, I'd love a conversation. If you're open to helping me, just explore what the culture's like there. I'd love to hear about what you do. I kept my humility. I asked good questions. And some of the people that I consider mentors today aren't 2 or 3 levels up, but they have that mindset. They were willing to connect, and they helped guide me through to where I am now. They helped me interview. So just keep in mind that mentors come in all shapes and sizes. They don't necessarily have to be an executive. They might be someone that's in your own circle already.
Yeah, no, that well said. And the way I sometimes think about mentors is like, I can learn from every single person. That person doesn't have to be kind of up there in their career or their business. I can learn from my 17-year-old. I can learn from we all bring something unique to the table. We have those God-gifted abilities, all of us. And we can learn from people around us. All we have to do is be intentional about listening. That you mentioned in the beginning, that generous listening, and being intentional about learning from your surroundings. And so when you hire people in your team, what are the attributes that you value?
One thing that has been across the board, and maybe it could be in just the roles that I've been in, but I've noticed that the commonality is coachability. I think that someone who has a coachable mindset has a certain humility to understand the lifelong learner aspect of a professional. That even as a human, I mean, personally, I'm learning everything. I try to learn new skills. I want to learn how to play the piano. I want to learn how to go fishing, learn how to work on a car. But someone who has a coachable mindset is that constant learner. Those are the individuals that tend to be more open to feedback. Yeah. They tend to understand when they need to make changes and don't look at criticism or constructive feedback, we'll say. Yeah. They don't look at that as a negative thing. That's more of a positive. They can take that feedback and use it as fuel. Yeah. So that becomes the steam that helps you move forward and grow as a professional. I personally have always had this coachable mindset. And when you meet people that don't have that mindset, you know who they are. They have that indomitable personality, but there's also a lack of humility that says, I know what I'm doing. I do it my way. This is how it's always been done. Yeah. And that limits the amount of flexibility and growth that person will have over time. And that will end up curtailing. Whereas the coachable mindset, that person will continue to grow. And as their skill sets do, that hockey stick, we call it, like that hockey stick in growth, where you see all of a sudden this compound ability to be able to navigate complex topics happen as you grow and develop yourself. So coachable mindset is number one. Always be open to being coached and that constant feedback. Yeah, no, totally. And I have experienced it. I have been there, done that when I had some, people in my team where it's just, they're not open to listen. They're not open to kind of really understand the other side. And that's energy draining. And when you have people that are pleasant to work with, and one common attribute that I see is that they are humble, they're coachable, and they are like, I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I, they have the confidence to put their perspective and straight talk, but at the same time, they are intentional about other perspectives, and they do believe in strengths of other people, and there is value in listening and understanding other perspectives. And Stephen, I know, you spend a lot of time learning, developing, and what are you reading nowadays? I read a lot of personal development book, anything from there's a book called Drive by Daniel Pink that teaches you all about just that motivation mindset. Yeah. But I like to read everything across the gambit. And so I'm big on personal development. Drive is definitely one of them. The motivation mindset. Factfulness is another really good one. I like to understand how facts can change the narrative of a story. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite books that I've read to date, which I recommend everyone reading if you're interested in business, is a book called Shoe Dog. It's a memoir about Phil Knight, the creator of a company you may have heard of called Nike. And this book chronicles his entire journey, this one person's journey from being 18 years old and this desire just to sell shoes, all the way up through growing a business, lawsuits, people trying to steal his business model, all the way up to the point where he became 51 years old. And there's a powerful message there. So I'll share a quote that was my favorite from the book. He's 51 years old and he just hangs up the phone after being told that Nike went public and he's now worth $170 million, more money than he'll ever spend in his life. And the only thing he could think of was regret because he couldn't do it all over again. And the message there, the whole book, you just take this breath and you just realize, wow, it's not about the money. It's not about the end game. It was about that journey and going through even the fun and the difficult times. And I think that's the way we should all approach our career journey, is that it's not always going to be an A to B. It's going to there's going to be twists and turns and there's going to be ups and downs, but that is part of the journey. And it's not the end game that's the fun. It's being in it. So enjoy what you're doing in the moment.
Yeah. And Simon Sinek will call it infinite game. Infinite
game. You got it.
And what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned, Stephen, that you want to share with our viewers?
So the funny thing about that is I had to think about this when you originally let me know this was something we might be discussing, because there's so many different things you could think about where that helps you grow. And there's a thing called a crucible moment I learned about early in my life, where what I learned early on is an obstacle can sometimes be your greatest strength. Mm-hmm. Something that we perceive as holding us back, something like that's a challenge that we really struggle to overcome, can be one of our greatest accelerators. Mm-hmm. And we don't know it in the moment. It's very hard to connect the dots looking back. Looking forward. We're only able to connect the dots looking backwards. And we say, that led me up perfectly to be the person I am now. And whether that's personally, whether that's professionally, going through that and then being authentically vulnerable about it on the other side is something that can change who you are as a person. It may, personally, I went through something very early on. If you don't mind me sharing with the group. Yeah. So personally, I struggle with something called alopecia. It's an autoimmune disease where all of my hair fell out. Yeah. And early on in my career, I thought I'll never be able to get a job. I'll never be able to I'll never get a great role at a company because I don't look like everyone else. I don't have any hair. Like, people are going to look at me weird. And that taught me, number one, to just be myself, mm-hmm. to not rely on looks, to be a great person. Mm-hmm. And then it helped me learn how to public speak because I started meeting with different groups of people. Then it helped me understand that I can drive value. I can add value to companies. I can be a great partner to a business like yourself. I can work for a cool company like LinkedIn. Yeah. And I can leave those other things behind. And it was an obstacle like that I thought was going to be my biggest challenge. Turned out to be one of my greatest strengths. So sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's professional, but it can be a greatest strength. So one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. Anytime you're going through that tough time, just remember this could be one of your greatest strengths. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. No, thank you. Pain is the greatest teacher. And thank you for sharing your story there. And one thing that I want to share is, sometimes when you are in that moment of pain, you don't realize it, how valuable it is. Because, when I came to this country from India, I was pumping gas and driving taxi and then going, nighttime, yellow cab in the city, daytime going to college. And I'm like, God, why me? Why I can't have fun like other kids in my class? But then now I reflect back on that journey and I'm like, I am who I am, and how strong I am today is because of that pain that I have gone through early on when I was 17, 18, that I had to do everything by myself because I moved here on my own. So pain, as you said, is the greatest teacher. And if you can just leverage that and make it, learn from it and make it useful for you, and look at it with a positive focus.
The magic is in the steam, as they say. I remember when I was looking at changing careers, and I was working during the day, and I was going back to school at night, and then between the hours of like 10 and 1 a.m., I'd be on LinkedIn messaging people, making connections, trying to look for my next opportunity. And I used those moments. I used that fuel, that frustration of I'm not where I want to be, and I want to. This is where I want to be. That turned into fuel, and if you can use that as fuel, it can propel you to places you've never been before. So don't forget, when you have that frustration, use that. The magic's in that steam, and just apply it constructively. See where it can take you. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for coming and joining me today. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you for being my guest today. And yeah.
So it's been great. Before we wrap, you're building something really incredible at IT by Design. I'd be curious if you'd be willing to share with me something you've noticed on the talent landscape as well, just to share with everyone, since we're on the talent discussion. Anything that you'd want to share that you've noticed from building this incredible team with only room to go from here?
Yeah. So one is that global perspective. That's very valuable, and what we discussed in the beginning, that now, especially with this COVID situation, I see people moving from cities to more suburbs. I was just talking to another partner this afternoon, and the partner, so engineer for this MSP, he was his lead engineer. MSP is from Tennessee, and he moved to Bay Area. And now, so where one MSP, he kind of hired someone for lower cost from a state where cost of living is low. Now, in this case, it's totally opposite. Now, the engineer moved for whatever personal reasons to Bay Area, and that's where the salary is high. Now, this MSP wants to retain him. He's like, you can work from home. But this guy is like, my cost of living is different, and this MSP don't have that budget to kind of accommodate that. So there's a lot of movement happening in terms of talent moving from one place to another place just because of the pandemic situation. A lot of people moved out of cities, and that's why you see that housing market everywhere in suburb, the prices have gone up. And so the message here is that for professionals, that this is a new world. Now you have to think different. That conventional thinking is not going to take you to the next level in this new norm. And especially for my MSP entrepreneur friends, they have to look at their talent strategy from a very different lens, because there just kind of the change that happened in the last year or so. It's just a huge change, and they have to think different. They have to be innovative in their talent strategies. And yeah, that's what I would like to share with our viewers. And once again, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sunny.